Welcome to Canada Bangladesh Social Justice Action Research Alliance. We organize critical and courageous conversations about issues connected to equity, fairness, and social justice. Please visit our website cbsjara.org to find our video conversations and about our community engagements. We are also available on YouTube and Facebook. You can find our audio podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Podcast. In this episode, we're going to discuss data science, artificial intelligence, and how they can expedite the progress in Bangladesh. I'm your host, Firoz Alam. Joining me, Farhana Hassan, apologize, Farhana Hassan. Farhana Hassan is the founder and CEO of Harwell, a US-based nonprofit organization for women's empowerment that focuses on breaking social barriers to success through education, advocacy, discussion, and innovative technology. Without further ado, Farhana Apa, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Firoz. So good to see you. Thank you so much
So
for
good to see you
having me.
too. I'm sorry I started butchering your name. Didn't mean to
Yeah,
do
you
that at
kind of
all.
did, but that's completely okay because you fixed it right away.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, our audience who don't know about your work, your engagement, how would you introduce your passion, your interest, your engagement to our audience?
Um, so let me introduce myself again. I'm Farhana Hassan. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am the founder and CEO of Her Will, a women's empowerment nonprofit. Now, that's the formal introduction of what we do at Her Will and what it is. But what it really um, is a community of women to highlight women's success all over the world, to give them a world stage to showcase their talents. So our target group is only talented women who have, aside from the domestic duties, aside from their gender biased roles, the talents they have and they want to showcase and pursue their passion. So we give them a platform to excel and highlight their achievements. So this is how it started. Then we morphed into the nonprofit that we now are and started our groundwork. And now we have three pillars. Number one is helping women in data science and artificial intelligence, building a workforce for the future work. And it kind of in the as a part of our whole STEM program, but right now for 2022 we're focusing on these two areas. And then entrepreneurship to give small business owners and startup founders to the resources, the funding sources, the network of people, how to get things done, and what they need to succeed in their business with our partners. That's what we're achieving. And then personal brand building and the highlighting of the success that I talked about. So utilizing social media, how do you use these various platforms out there so that people are attracted to your uh, leadership traits and all the skill sets that you have? You know, see her, promote her, hire her, give her money to do better in life. So getting them to that power position in the world as economic empowerment is the enabler of equality, is the key enabler of equality being our motto. That's the kind of work that we're doing with Her Will.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I've got so many follow-up questions, but let me start with this. A lot of our audience, they probably will not be able to, I mean, if you are not from a tech sector, you'll probably not be able to understand the correlation between artificial intelligence and data science. So could you explain that for our audience who might not be familiar with the correlation between artificial intelligence and data science?
Absolutely. That is a great way to start because see data science as a whole, we let's think of it as a circle between circles. Okay, so it's the whole circle. The umbrella is the data science. The whole discipline of how data is understood, deciphered, and utilized. That is data science. So there is a huge spectrum of what you can do with the data. How do you understand the data? And so we know that with the digital transformation, and digital transformation actually is not, it sounds really fancy, but it's just the transition from our paperwork to what we have done in spreadsheets and now in massive other software that are doing great things, right? So with the digital transformation came many other ways to see, okay, Now we have all these data that we're generating, petabytes, zettabytes of data on a daily basis. At every reaction on your social media post, or to any picture, anything that you post out there, or any shopping you're doing, every single minute people are producing trillions of data at given moment. So how do you utilize that data, and what do you do with it? So that's where artificial intelligence came in. Artificial intelligence is the second circle within that big circle I was talking about. Is that artificial intelligence teaches computers how to think like humans. How do we make decisions? So, in basic terms, artificial is just that. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she said, "Oh, every time you talk about artificial intelligence, I feel like you're talking about me." I thought that was amazing. So I told her I'm going to use it. From going forward, that is exactly what we are. Artificial intelligence. Actually, computers are becoming more intelligent. So then within that area, the third circle within that big circle is the machine learning. So
Mhm.
machine learning basically trains the data. It gives us a predicted outcome and recommends us to make a certain decision. So it augments our decision making ability. So every time you see Amazon's giving you, hey, you bought this last time, so this may
Mhm.
be another product that you may be interested in. That's machine learning working. Machine learning understands your behavior, your data patterns, and then make decisions based off of that. So that's machine learning. And within that, after that, deep learning comes, which is not a subset of machine learning, maybe a subset of artificial intelligence. But deep learning shows us that how you can use actual the patterns of the human brain, and a neuroscientist will be able to explain to you more than I ever be able to. But actually, the patterns of data to recognize every single data point. If you give your computer a picture of a cat, this cat example is used everywhere, right? Picture of a cat. How does it know it's a cat?
Mhm.
How does it know it's not a extraterrestrial animal, so someone from somewhere outside, right? So that's deep learning working, and working is in real time. So I
Mhm.
hope that explains the whole spectrum of
Of
the data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning.
Yeah, in machine learning, and particularly when you talked about deep learning, um, I mean, my own doctoral research, I'm trying to understand that how there could be misuse of these exponential technologies for probably not for very good reasons, as we have seen in the United States, that how I mean, how the technologies have been used to create polarization, the disinformation campaign, and what have you. But when we hear these exponential technologies, whether it is about artificial intelligence or big data or data science, the narrative pendulum, swings from either it's a dystopian
Yeah.
Hollywood film, Terminator, you're going to, our life is going to be gone, um, or on the other hand, techno-utopianism, where all the problems of the world would be solved by these technologies. Now, I had a conversation with a very big computer scientist at the University of Michigan. Um, he started his career in artificial intelligence and design amazing things. But then later he started seeing that you can't solve problems that are social only with technology. So there's a bit of both.
Mhm.
However, we have anxieties about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. It feels like all our jobs are going to be taken away. So, could you help us navigate through this fear, the anxiety, and what are some of the misconceptions that we have about artificial intelligence, um, so that we can actually not fear it, but approach it with confidence and knowledge?
Yeah. So technology in any form is as good as the creator, as good as the developer and the person who's writing the algorithms behind it, right? So you can use the internet for doing inappropriate things in the dark web, or doing whatever you want to, but or you can utilize it to continuously learn and grow and do massive things that we're seeing all over the planet. So, just like that, artificial intelligence, the optimist in me wants to tell you that there's absolutely nothing to fear about if we have certain governance guidance around it from the very beginning. And we're not at the beginning any longer. I mean, yeah, it may feel like we've scratched the surface, but it's for the majority of the people. But in a lot of different areas where they're doing some real work, it is they have gone beyond that, and it's right now is the time to end. The Biden administration here in the United States is working on that. That I know the EU has done a major job in regulating a lot of these things. So my point is, so the myths. So what could be the myths? The most prevalent one. It's going to take your jobs away. Well, the Industrial Revolution happened. It augmented our jobs. The assembly lines happened, and they helped our jobs. They took the repetitive, boring stuff out of us. But I think artificial intelligence, what it's going to do is automate a lot of different things that don't really need our help. I mean, we shouldn't be wasting our brain cells doing that. Our brain cells should be left for creative and more challenging things. So, in terms of jobs, as long as we are continuously learning, as I said, continuously learning and growing our skill sets and getting ready for the future, uh, then we have very little to worry about. And believe it or not, I actually found a website that I wanted to mention. Will robots take in our jobs.com. So you go to that, will robots take in our jobs.com, and then to search your job, it's civil engineer or a medical technician, or what have you. Then it'll give you a probability of what kind of risk you're in, to lose your job, and then what your average salary is, and what is the opportunity cost of losing it. So for things like that, it is a real fear, but I think that the fear could be abated by getting yourself ready for what is to come. And you know, they say that in 2050, the kind of jobs that are going to exist, 80% of the jobs that are going to be there do not even exist today, and constantly be on the top and on the lookout for what is it that we need to be getting ourselves ready for, what our next generation should be ready for, is the key to debunk that myth that it's taking our jobs away. Another big thing is bias, incorporating bias. And
Mm.
bias, there's this major example of Amazon recruitment process that happened, I think, a few years ago,
Mhm.
5, 6 years ago. And they were saying that they were not really getting any female employees, talents out there, right? They went back and researched what was happening, and they found out the keyword search software is actually excluding females from as soon as they were saying the gender female, so excluding them out of some particular counties, some particular states, from underprivileged backgrounds. So that automatically cuts your female pool in the STEM job is little as is. And then when you exclude those areas geographically, then you have a very little, as the number is really small to work with. So when they found out, so that goes back to the point of it is only as good as the human who's creating it. So a biased white supremacist or a misogynist, writing some codes out there, making some software, will always portray those biases there. But I think there will be the QA, and the governance will come in, and they're the ones who are going to figure those out. But I do not say that the state is going to control everything, but there has to be a check and balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at MIT University, Dr. Joy Bulum has done an excellent job in terms of bias. The Coded Gaze is a documentary on Netflix on that, the biases, etc. Um, Now, let's bring it to. I just want to take a quick comment. Dr. Naveen has asked, please share the link to Will I Lose My Job? Dr. Naveen, I'll personally share the link with you.
Yes,
Yeah,
robotstakemyjob.com.
yeah, thank you. Um, so, the other thing, and let's come to you and I are both, Bangladeshis. We, we live thousands of miles away from Bangladesh at the moment.
Absolutely.
Um, Bangladesh has done exceptionally well in many areas, particularly in digital progress. But at the same time, if we see that on the front of technologies like artificial intelligence or data science, one might argue that if we do not build our capacities in these areas, in the global competitiveness, we will fall behind. Now, you are an expert in the field. You have been working in understanding, you've been working with women um, in technology as well. So, what is your take on that? Because you have an intimate understanding of Bangladesh, and you're also working in the United States at the moment. So, what's your take on that? That Bangladesh's competitiveness, and if we don't build that competence in artificial intelligence and data science.
I absolutely agree that Bangladesh or any other country in the world will fall behind
Mhm.
if we're not getting ourselves ready for what is to come. So now, I've done some research last time I was in Bangladesh. In the last couple of years, I've done it twice, and I was pretty impressed with the way Bangladesh is approaching it. Especially the government has taken it very seriously for the 4IR skill development. And a lot of NGOs are doing a great job in developing that skill sets that are not typically taught in school curriculums. So the problem is that in regular schools in the curriculum traditional schooling that we have in the curriculum we have in place, they do not cover even basic coding, and that's basic programming, basic math, basic stats to begin any kind of data science or um, AI is a far-fetched discipline. So it's not just in Bangladesh; it's here too. And then I do not know what the situation is in Canada, and I figure it's the same. So
Yeah.
the elementary level, middle school, high school, we're not doing a great job. More than about 50-60% of the students, and that's just an hypothetical number there. Students, I see that their first exposure, my own first exposure was when I was in college,
Mhm.
as a freshman, right?
Mhm.
To computers, to databases, to how the numbers work there, how to cleanse them, what to do with them. So these, I think, should be elementary. It should be part of the curriculum. That is not happening. But on the other hand, the government is doing a great job in Bangladesh to have the skill development where they're focusing on these big deep tech 4IR disciplines to teach and build the standards on how to skill these people. So my problem is that when you do not have the foundation, how are you gonna go and even if the opportunity is given to you, you're not in a position to take those opportunities because you don't know the basics. And with her will, um, I'm not sure if I had a chance to share the datathon experience that we are, running in in most continents. We did the last one in Bangladesh. What we tried to do with some technical knowledge, how can very little technical knowledge actually, they just have to know the basics of stats and they come in, we give them workshops. Are they prepared to go into a competition to solve a real world problem? And it just floored us in the result from Bangladesh. 21 districts, girls from 21 districts, and this was the first ever women only datathon in the world, participated, and they just, you know, the way they have solved the problems, understood the data, and predicted, classified, and predicted what we have asked them to do is unbelievable. So we shared those data back with the source organization, university that gave us the data, and they're amazingly, they're also blown away by the results. So see, that's the power. You have to know. So to be able to give them that kind of skill sets, teaching someone about blockchain or how the neural network works, or how the machine learning works, before that, give them the basics, and with the basics, use real life examples to show them how it's affecting their daily life, so it's penetrated in their brains, and then get them ready, prepare them for the next generation of the jobs and everything that we're doing to be competitive in the job market. But I think we're on the verge of real opportunities here, where people have realized that um, they are not happy with the lifestyles and the life they had during COVID, and the great resignation happened. And we can convert that into a great aspiration, great ambition of people working, skilling themselves in these kind of things, and then get ready for the future. So that's something else. So I just wanted to add one more thing, is that our next one
Mm-hmm.
is next in April in North America,
Mm-hmm.
where we are targeting only women of color, and we are giving them a better. So every time we do this, we're going to be better and bigger, and hopefully, so that our workshops are now 4 to 8, and we're going to go more in depth, concepts and theories and applications, and then give them that opportunity to participate in the competition.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely important to recognize that the technologies fields like artificial intelligence and data science or machine learning, to what extent these fields are dominated by one group of people disproportionately. And I also want to remind our audience about that the famous incident that at Google, the only black AI scientist, Dr. Timna Jibru, when she raised a question about the model's bias, uh, that didn't end very well for her. And mind you, that Dr. Jibru is a Stanford graduate. She raised question that how these models that we are building could potentially cause harm, and in eventually Dr. Jibru resigned from Google. So that's not good. I was looking into some of the data that how these technology companies report their diversity data. That's not very inspiring. So you doing datathon, inspiring women of color is extremely important. Otherwise we will have. Now I want to bring us back to Bangladesh again. I'm really hopeful and I'm really inspired hearing that when you were doing the datathon, you saw a lot of potential among Bangladeshi uh, girls and young women. When you went to work, what are some of the biggest barriers if we want to excel in artificial intelligence or in machine learning? What are some of the biggest barriers you have you have recognized, or you would say to our audience?
Biggest barriers, and that is how her will got started actually,
Mhm,
and data proved us right.
mhm,
um, Biggest barrier is lack of role models,
mm, mm,
lack of awareness
mm,
that this is an amazingly lucrative field.
mhm,
So if you go back to the economic empowerment is the key to equality,
mhm,
and you cannot talk about equality without understanding that you have to first be aware of what is wrong with your surroundings. With the Google professor's name, I always mess it up, so I'm not going to go there. What
mhm,
she found out
mhm,
is, and I am, and it's really shameful that she lost her job because of that. But it is the reality everywhere, in every Fortune 1000 companies you work for, or in littlest startups or the nonprofits. Um, Everywhere is the same situation. It starts at the education level. So when we did our research in the United States, right? In the United States, the schools, the STEM students are 50-50.
mhm,
So by the time these STEM students join the workforce, 15% drop off, 35% stay in the STEM workforce.
mhm,
of them, only so 35% of the women join the workforce. Of them, only 15% stay in come into data science, artificial intelligence in that field. That's the area we focused in. And of that, only 3% of women and color. So we went back and tried to find out why is that. That's because they do not understand that with a 4 years undergrad degree, your average salary in the United States is $120,000. And with a hundred, where the median income, median family of four, median income in this country is still 75. 122 is a big deal. It's a life-changing experience, generational. It'll build them generational wealth and income sources. They do not know that, and also it can be done with the same kind of efforts they're putting into other disciplines and other areas of work they're in. Not having role models, not having women like who look like them, who act like them, who talk like them, with accents, without accents, with any kind of background, from Pabna or Dhaka or any or Guatemala, wherever we come from, we have what's in here is can be utilized, and we can become whatever we want to be. That very core, that affirmation is not embedded in their heads, and that is what we are trying to do deliberately at Harwell. So that is the second thing, that they do not know and they don't understand that you can be what you want to be in these fields if you pursue those careers, which are not really as complicated as computer science, computer information system, or medicine or engineering. It's actually relatively less complicated in a lot of different ways, and there's numerous fields that you can pursue within the discipline of data science, right? So you can pick and choose anything, and you become, based on your circumstances and your abilities, you can become anything. So that those two, I hope that answer your question. And then the diversity issue, it's a sham. It's literally what we're doing in this country and around the world. And I was hoping, with the knowledge sharing that we're doing in the United States and Bangladesh and any other countries in the world where we work from, all these people, we are going to show them, okay, what is it that working? What's working here? What's great about, what gives me the privilege of sitting here and talk about DS and AI. Um, well, when my story is shared, when my story is told to the right group of women, girls who have the same kind of talent but never knew how to utilize them, that's how we can build a bridge, and that's how we can, close the digital divide in the world. And that's exactly what we're doing in Harwell as well with our teams. So um, one of my I feel fortunate that I have an eye for talent. If you see any member of our team, that any woman that you talk to, you would be amazed of the talents that they're showing and what they are capable of doing, and the kind of leadership skills they bring in, and the kind of technical skills they bring, the skills they didn't know they had. A physician working on graphic design or community outreach, a data engineer working on unbelievable, organizing a whole datathon across geography and doing unbelievable things with what she can, having that belief and having that confidence that you can do it all. I take it very seriously, and I hope that everybody who are in positions of power around the world will, and that's how we build DEI. We bring in DEI.
Yeah, you reminded me of something very important that I have discovered coming to Canada. I didn't know. My academic training is in uh, political economy, critical sociology, education philosophy. I'm not from a field of computer science, but when I came to Canada after finishing my studies, when I needed to complete my immigration, so I needed to work. So I worked in technology companies about 3 years, and then there I picked up intermediate level of SQL for doing data science work, can you do analyzing, so, and there I have seen in Canada the opportunities you have, and obviously similar to America, is that I have seen a manager who was working in theater. He was a theater manager, and he told me in a personal story that one day in my 40s I decided, man, that's enough. I'm done being poor. So he went to a boot camp, and now he's managing a team of software engineers. I have met somebody who majored in philosophy who was doing his PhD in philosophy. And then he decided, no, I need money. So he had a family, and now he's one of the best. So a very senior software developer told me that, Feroz, what matters in computer science, or in particularly programming, is that can you ask good questions?
Questions. Yeah.
There are so many transferable skills. So you see, you just have said somebody who was probably working as a consultant in one field, now they're working as a graphics designer. Farhana Ba, I have people, young people from my village.
Yeah.
They are working as graphics designers, earning in dollars. Obviously, your story and my story will coincide. My question is that, is a graphics designer from my village in Pabna given the same wage had she been from Canada?
Yeah. Well, no.
No, exactly. Yeah. So, and in terms of diversity, and also I'm really proud that how women in STEM are doing in terms of promoting diversity. Dr. Fei Fei Li, the woman who has pioneered vision intelligence, the way she's passionate about diversity in technology. Um, Moments ago, you were talking about talent. I was reading a book where it says that talent is universal,
Yep.
but opportunities are not.
No.
So, let us bring back to Bangladesh again. The discussion is that your intimate understanding of Bangladesh's socioeconomic landscape and our social, our cultural atmosphere. What are some of these sectors in Bangladesh that you think is ripening with potential that we can, take advantage of? The artificial intelligence and data science. These are the sectors in Bangladesh you think.
So there are two sides of this question. I would, and I'll tell you, I'll frame it that way. One is the application side. Where can you apply and get immediate results and make the most impact?
Hmm.
The other is that who can you utilize to
Hmm.
get that result, right?
Correct.
So who
Hmm.
can you? So I'll address the first part of the question. Where can you apply it? I in the little time that I've spent in Bangladesh, but I've done some massive research. In one of them was healthcare.
Hmm.
Healthcare, um, astonished to find out. I mean, that people, we're still going around with those massive files of all our data from where we were 1 year old to my parents are in their 70s, 80s, and they're still carrying their old files to, and god forbid you lose one sheet and you don't know what your history was. So many things are happening. So that small digital transformation and having a record, forget about AI, ML, and all these fancy stuff. Just having that spreadsheet is not even there. So how are you going to talk about technology and its impact and its application when we haven't even transitioned from pen and paper to get that noted on a digital form, right? So in a very large hospital, tremendously expensive, if not the most expensive in Bangladesh. Here was the situation: um, patient name, patient gender, patient's age, not date of birth. So, what is the unique identifier here? Patient's age could be anything. I could, go by as a 60 some year old or 25. Who's going to verify that for me? So, no unique identifier they have a fancy database that they're showing me, and they all the information are being recorded, but that basic understanding. So from paper to computer, they have been promoted to, But what to do with that data and how to collect and gather and cleanse that data, they have no idea of. Do you think that problem is just for in Bangladesh? No. To your surprise, it is the same in the United States. Yes, we may have graduated from paper to digital here, but there's no centralized process. Our doctors are billing us for the same thing 4 different times. Our doctors here in the United States are just killing us with multiple tests that I've just done last week, and they want to do the same thing because they don't have any central system. The EMR, the electronic medical record system they don't talk to each other. So many opportunities here. But going back to Bangladesh, I wanted to draw that parallel of Bangladesh and the United States and the developed country and a developing country like Bangladesh. Going back to Bangladesh, I feel like a massive opportunity exists to revolutionize medical system in Bangladesh just with data. And it starts with nowhere but data gathering. And once you get that data, once you have the repositories at every hospital, every county, the district healthcare offices, and the major healthcare systems, we're going to be able to reduce mortality. We're going to be able to reduce malfunction. We're going to be able to optimize the doctor patient time, and massive improvement can happen. Another area is education, basic student data, what we're going to be able to do. I mean, imagine you as a student knowing everything about you, what your interests are, what you're good at, what your grades are, and how, and then something telling you what is your predictable, what is the projection of you being successful, and what is success defined as. Let's say golden GPA is a GPA A plus or something, right? So that is the measure of success. That's your KPI. And what is your probability that this kid at age 8, 6, 7, 8, at grade 3, at age 6, 7, 8, they're gonna be at age 16 and 18, they're gonna come flying out with a golden GPA or what have you. So what is your or what is the drop rate? And the child marriage comes in Bangladesh's context, right? What is the drop rate that this girl's gonna be dropping out of school as soon as puberty hits, and that girl is gonna be subjected to something criminal. So these kind of things you can actually have with very little investment, because the infrastructure is there. A lot of people do not know Bangladesh has actually done massive improvement in improving the infrastructure. So with very little investment, but with the goodwill and collaboration, you can make things happen very quickly.
Um, in terms of the medical documentation, um, digitalizing it or digitizing it, in the United States, there is the standard for HIPAA that the document how it is safe, and then all of that. We do know that some people have started working on the field of digitizing the existing medical documents, and to help it. Um, you brought about something incredibly important, which is the education sector, and I'm a teacher. That's something that I have the longest exposure and understanding, and something that I'm passionate about. Um, Bangladesh has done in so many ways tremendously well in terms of connecting people to internet. I took the data of BDRC of 2019. It showed that more than 116 million, nearly 120 million people are connected to internet. Now, imagine, Farhana Apa, a country of Bangladesh's size, we have 120, nearly 120 million people connected to internet. How much data are we generating?
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with you 100% on that. is that we are not able to harness the benefit of that data locally, but companies, let's say Google or Amazon, or the biggest tech titans, they're taking the data because we are generating the data on their infrastructure. So where is our benefit?
Mhm.
Bangladesh has a vision 2041. By that we want to accomplish amazing goals. How do you think that artificial intelligence and data science can expedite that process, and some of the things that our government, our policymakers, our leaders should be aware of and work towards that with a concentrated effort?
I think I touched on that, but I'll re-emphasize it with this is a great question, but
Mm,
embedding it in the educational curriculum is key, number one.
mhm,
And then the
mhm,
skill development is the key. Skill
mhm,
development, again, skill development without foundation doesn't work. You just have
mhm,
to start from the basics and revamp you're an educator, you know the importance of it. Had
mhm,
you had your SQL training in
mhm,
middle school or high school, imagine what you could have done. You probably wouldn't have chosen computer science, but you
mhm,
would have probably gotten, somewhere, your journey would have been
mhm, mhm,
expedited, right? So
mhm,
it is the basic, those basic need to be incorporated in the school curriculum. And
mhm,
the second is, then what do you do?
mhm,
Understand where the opportunities are.
mhm,
So, and when we did that research, as you know and I know, the future work is virtual. The future of work is freelancing.
mhm,
People have realized that there was something basically wrong in the way we lived our lives. Commuting back and fro, and traveling for work all over the world, and what we used to do will no longer work, because we've proven to ourselves that we can accomplish the same, if not more, just sitting in our bedrooms and home offices doing the kind of work that we do. So, in that, there are also a large number of people, 4 million people, only in fall of 2021, have decided to resign. So yeah, and we called it the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation created opportunities for people who are looking for jobs and getting into the workforce to look for new opportunities to get into. So again, reskilling is the key. Find out where you're needed, find out where the jobs are, and get yourself ready, because that's where you're, be it as a freelancer, be it as a startup founder, startup worker. The white collar work is going to be, the knowledge work is going to be very different in the next few years. And this is, we're on the brink of a metamorphosis that's happening. And we just started it. So that opens up that opportunity from developing countries. Now, you brought up the question: are we going to say give them the same amount of remuneration for the same amount of job work they do? So, unfortunately, the answer is probably no, because it is the power game all over the world. It's the whoever holds the power. But we can shift that dynamic
mhm,
from Europe and India and Pakistan and Malaysia. Why can't we put Bangladesh on the map for the freelance landscape, right? And they can come in. Why can't we see? India is almost at par as a U.S. talent or a Canadian talent. So Eastern European talent is almost as par at. This is not how they started, but we need to start somewhere. So when they start, because it's all about the supply and demand and the labor cost. So labor cost, even if, why would somebody else, let's say I'm a startup founder and I have to go invest, why would I go outside of the United States to go find a talent from a business point of view, if
mhm,
I only worry about my bottom line and my expenses?
mhm,
Because my operation cost is going to be low,
mhm,
and I can give that opportunity to someone who is not making the fraction of the money that I'm going to give them. So it's a win-win situation for emerging markets. So what's happening there is I am keeping my operation costs low, but giving them a game-changing opportunity, life-changing opportunity to make multiples of what they're capable of making at any point of time. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a two-way street, but then we would hope and aspire to go to, now the talent is going to be as good as any other country's talent, and the compensation will be matched with anybody else in the world. So it's a growth process. You have to let yourself time to be able to do that. So to your so Bangladesh has so much opportunities to be where they want to be with the Vision 2041. I feel like with that, with the freelancing opportunity and the borderless working opportunity, we are going to be able to expedite our game and our journey to achieve
Yeah.
goals.
I had a chance to talk to Dr. Shaistegir Chaudhary, who is a principal engineer at Intel's Research and Development Department. And he brought about something exactly along your line. In India, right? Imagine how many tech giants right now are headed
Yeah,
by graduates. They were not educated at MIT or at Harvard, they were educated in India, and now they're leading some of the biggest companies in the world here in the United. I mean, in the United States. I'm sorry to say here. I mean, I'm saying in Canada, in
in
the
the
in
same
North America. Yeah, but then he mentioned something also very sad, that in India, the institutions where the Indian talents have come and establish themselves in the United States, when they want to give back, the institutions are wide open. The professors, the administration is that come give back. Unfortunately, because of bureaucracy, because of our short sightedness, our education institutions back in Bangladesh have not been able to harness the expertise Bangladeshi brilliant minds are contributing in Silicon Valley in the United States
yeah.
back in Bangladesh. So that's unfortunate. That's people who work in Silicon Valley, their reality.
But see, that's where the branding Bangladesh comes in. Like, I know that
Mm,
it's a key phrase that's being overused, but branding Bangladesh in its real sense, to
mhm,
be able to highlight these talents, to be able to highlight these people and the work that we're doing, and then have real intention from that side to bring these talents to help them
mhm,
grow and augment what they're doing is
mhm,
it's what's needed. Do you
mhm,
see that happening a lot? I do not yet. It's improving. It's
mhm,
better than what it used to be, because
mhm,
in my experience there's a lot of people who are, ready to give them, share their knowledge and their experiences and make things better, make processes better, but you have to be willing from the other side to be able to take it and ready to take those, utilize those talents.
Appa, you were saying that a lot of the times when, because I work with the schools in the villages, right? I
Yeah,
mean, my teenage son knows, coding. He knows how to. He's a graphics designer. He can edit videos using. So I'm thinking that he's a teen and he's learning all of that, and I have learned it in my mid 30s.
yeah,
I'm in my 40s now. I just think that, if I could learn those things when I was 13, 14, 15.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's the reality. I want to take a question from Dr. Nadine. Knowledge production is a gendered and racialized project, and so it follows that so is education. Knowledge production is a gendered and racialized project, and so it follows that so in education. In a borderless world, do we risk deepening the global gender and racial disparities?
It's a great question, but it's not a binary zero and one answer,
Mhm,
because the racial and gender disparities will grow. But
mhm,
let's think about the context for a second.
mhm,
When you have zero, when you have
mhm,
nothing to start upon,
mhm,
when I use this example often, that a civil engineer in Bangladesh, I saw this um, job description, a civil engineer with 4 years degree, they're asking from the four, five big
mhm,
university, for a recruitment. The
Mhm.
salary is 26,000 taka. Okay. A physician with 5 years of working like there's no tomorrow gets a 10,000 taka salary, if lucky. So from when you are starting at zero and you have the world of opportunities in coming to you to help you do this, you either do basics, graphic designs, web development, social media stuff, all this, and it's gonna give you 4 times as much salary as you could have made with that kind of education and labor that you have put yourself through. Then that disparity, is that something that you're gonna worry about at the beginning? That is something we have to, yes, intentionally work on from the giver side of the world, that we have to make sure that's not happening. But on the other side, how do we balance it? And I hope I answered her question, that
Mhm.
this is a very delicate balance that we have to play with, that we have to really understand the context of where people are coming from and how what we're going to do. I would rather give them something than
Mhm.
let them hang dry and
Mhm.
not give them any opportunity at all.
Mhm.
Opening the door of opportunity, getting your foot in the door is the first step. And
Mhm.
then let's figure out, let's then have a seat at the decision making table where we change the game.
Mhm.
And then
Exactly.
the step by step process.
Yeah. I worked with a Syrian refugee in Canada.
Mhm.
Um, he does not have any college education, nothing.
Yeah.
And I asked him that, and he's an AI engineer. He builds model that extracts data from 1 million documents in 13 seconds. So that kind of data, and his success rate is amazing. So
Yeah.
he's given over $500,000 salary. And I asked him that, so how much money did you spend for all your education? And I say this to my son all the time, and I hit my head on the wall when I talk to the parents in Bangladesh, trying to tell them that you need to understand that we live in an exponential time.
Yeah.
What took 100 years from first to second industrial revolution,
Yeah.
now it takes 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So you think that, with a very set curriculum, you'll be able to prepare your daughter and your son to be able to compete?
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. So he said that all he in his entire life he spent $96 for his education, buying a course from Harvard on AI. One of my direct students has spent 4 years at the University of Toronto. Imagine the kind of dollars he paid. And he jokes with me, telling me that, I studied 4 years at the University of Toronto. And right now, I think the yearly tuition fee is about $70,000 if you're an international student. Right now, he's a digital marketing director of a company, and everything, and Farhana Apa, I use it advisedly. Everything he has learned spending $15 with a massive online course. So we don't understand it, the consequence. That is why in the villages you will see, and I can give you examples that in our village there are kids who are learning coding,
Yeah.
who are graphics designer, who are
Mm.
building websites. I'm sorry, I'm I wanted to tell that to you.
No, no, no. I
Um,
appreciate
mhm,
that.
mhm,
My story is pretty much the same. Why did I choose? Well, not the same. I
mhm,
actually went through 6 years of training in
mhm,
data science. Back then, it was called
mhm,
decision sciences.
mhm,
But the kind of doors that opened for me and
mhm,
put me where I am today,
mhm,
I largely attributed that to the fact that I chose a field of studies
mhm,
that did so much for that. That is the future of the world.
mhm,
And it was by like luck in my personal circumstance. But right now, see, that's the key. That's why we're focusing on data science, because it doesn't take a lot. You can take, as in Coursera, in any kind of MOOC you go to, or
mhm,
edX, you go get yourself a 3 month degree and you are pretty much ready for
mhm,
becoming a basic coder in Python and R, and then get your career started. And
mhm,
within a couple of months, you'll see the income being multiplied. And that is the
mhm,
key. And that's exactly what happened to your friend. And
mhm.
that is the crux of why we're doing what we're doing.
But Abba, here there's another structural inequality, social inequality.
Yeah,
I have taught in the most expensive private schools in Bangladesh.
yeah.
I'll give you one example, and everybody knows him. So one of my students, his name is Taus. He founded a company called Gaze in Bangladesh. That his company. So basically, they're using AI and machine learning
Mhm.
to do all kinds of vision recognition, etc., etc. But the thing is, he graduated from one of the top English medium schools in Bangladesh, and when he was a ninth grader, he was coding. He was building things. But the thing is, that is not the case for rural Bangladesh. Now, this is going to be probably the hardest question, or the last question that I'm going to ask you. That I often say that yes, we have done a lot in terms of digital Bangladesh. Nearly 120 million people are connected to the internet. But if the digital Bangladesh is not democratized, I repeat, if it is not democratized, majority of our students will not gain the benefit. We have seen pandemic hit, and if there is one thing that has become clearer to us, the inbuilt inequality. Students from AISD, Scholastica, their schools don't stop. They didn't stop. I mean, you're in the United States. I am here in Canada. We teach students, online. We don't have a problem. But who got, hit the hardest?
Yeah.
My question to you: what is your thought on democratizing the vision of digital Bangladesh so that people from the margin, especially young potential, raw potential, Apa, sometimes I tag you, see the young girls, young boys from rural Bangladesh, what they can do.
Yeah.
So, what is your thought on that, please?
These, thank you for tagging me, by the way. I watched them and they're so inspiring what you're doing. Your whole work, and we're nearing the nearing the end of the conversation, so I needed to emphasize that. I'm very
Mhm,
inspired and impressed by your work. So, what I was going to say was that, so the democratization of data, of digital assets, availability,
mhm,
accessibility, and applicability, right? These are the three A's that you can do to democratize any technology asset. So from them to make things available, as you said yourself, 120 million people in Bangladesh have internet access. So
mhm,
internet clearly was not the problem.
mhm,
The problem was the intention of teaching the right thing to the right people the right way. So
mhm,
the schools that we saw dropped out stopped without a proper, when they didn't have a great direction of what could have happened, how they were going to conduct. I mean, the same case throughout the world happened in during the pandemic, right? People were kind of lost without direction, that how are they going to conduct, basic education. And when that happens, that there's that massive sense of loss, that's one thing. I know that's not the popular answer, but the second one is that intention. What are you, they all have access to the internet. They were not taking classes. What are they doing in their time, and who were watching and monitoring them? There weren't were there teachers available? What is your role as a teacher? What kind of examples are you establishing to your students? There's stories like where teachers were holding classes under the tree during the pandemic, and 6 feet distance, and great with great success. So those are teachers like that, and those are teachers who had just taken 2 years leave of absence. So it is an all-encompassing process. Democratization does not come from the state and the government itself, but it's the whole, the collaboration, the mentality and the intention of the society and the players, of all the stakeholders in place, that will have to go and make things happen. For that little girl that you referred to, and I'm so inspired by her, that who built that website,
mhm,
and from nothing, within 3 months.
mhm,
There are talents like that all over the world. They're all over Bangladesh.
mhm,
Instead of doing TikToking, she is utilizing. She's producing, not just consuming. We have to
mhm.
get kids out of the consumption mode as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Farhanapa, thank you so much, for making some time for us, from your crazy busy schedule.
Thank you.
And we look forward to be able to collaborate with you, and what you're doing in the United States with Harwil and in Bangladesh. We want to join forces and do great things. Thank you very much for our audience, who have been listening and asking great questions. Thank you, Appa.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. It was a great conversation. Bye.
Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.